This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
100 days of Donald Trump's second term in the Oval Office.
The president has overwhelmingly delivered on that promise.
I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The White House touts its immigration crackdown and promises more to come.
Operation Tidal Wave is a preview of what is to come around this country.
I'm Rich Johnson.
A stunning turnaround and anti-American backlash keeps Prime Minister Mark Carney in power in Canada. I'm Jeff McKay with the details.
911 operators describe hearing horrific screams after a ferry collision in Florida. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, a mixed start to the week as investors watch a tariff standoff with China. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
An autopsy report has confirmed that the main cause of death for actor Gene Hackman was heart disease. I'm Haya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. A president's first 100 days in office is often scrutinized in any new administration, a gauge of what promises were kept and which ones have yet to be. John Stolnis has more on the first 100 days of Donald Trump's second term in office.
With a Republican-controlled Congress on his side, Trump's first 100 days have seen a flurry of activity perhaps unprecedented in American history, making good on a number of campaign promises. Chief among them, his plan to fix border security and begin mass deportations of immigrants in the country illegally. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
The president has overwhelmingly delivered on that promise. America's borders are now secure because of President Trump.
Trump also promised to end birthright citizenship in America.
The future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship.
But he will need the Supreme Court's help to do that. He promised to end critical race theory in schools and cut federal funding for schools that push alternative lifestyles and DEI policies, and is in the process of drastically reducing the influence of the Department of Education.
One other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education.
Two other promises kept. Pardons for January 6th defendants.
We will treat those people from January 6th fairly, and if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons.
And releasing classified documents on the JFK Jr. assassination. He's also made good on efforts to root out what he calls the deep state, with massive layoffs of government employees he believes are corrupt. However, two big promises not kept. Repeated assertions he would end the Ukraine war easily and swiftly.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled.
And promises on tariffs.
I think when companies come in and they dump their products in the United States, they should pay automatically, let's say, a 10% tax.
Those remain in limbo after a pause on his Liberation Day trade wars with foreign nations. After promising to bring down prices during the campaign, inflation was 3% in January and fell to 2.4% last month. Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Inflation is on the way up. Donald Trump is crashing the economy.
A new ABC News poll found a 39% approval rating of the president's performance at the 100-day mark. That's the lowest 100-day approval rating of any president in the past 80 years. However, that poll finds he still beats Democrats in terms of who to trust to handle the country's biggest problems. John Stolnis, Washington.
Concerning the nation's problems, the White House is promising to highlight different accomplishments each day this week, starting with the immigration crackdown. Details from Correspondent Rich Johnson.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says if you like the crackdown so far, you'll love what's to come.
We are in the beginning stages of carrying out the largest deportation campaign in American history.
Leavitt touted the Trump record on immigration with the help of the immigration czar, Tom Homan.
Today, as I'm standing here, we are the most secure border in the history of this nation.
Backed, Homan said, by Border Patrol numbers showing a more than 90% drop in the number of illegal border crossings in March compared to March of last year. Homan also defended the moves to send some infants born in the U.S. out of the country with their parents who were here illegally.
When a parent says, I want my 2-year-old baby to go with me, we made that happen. They weren't deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. The parents made that decision, not the United States government.
Today, Homan will be in Rochester, New York, which declared itself a sanctuary city more than 30 years ago. Recently, the police leadership disciplined some officers who helped ICE agents arrest someone suspected of being in the country illegally. The Trump administration is suing the city over that move. Over the weekend, a DEA raid at an unlicensed nightclub in Colorado Springs netted more than 200 arrests. And ICE agents in Florida arrested nearly 800 people over 4 days, what was labeled Operation Tidal Wave. Back at the White House, Caroline Leavitt said, "Get ready for more."
Operation Tidal Wave is a preview of what is to come around this country. Large-scale operations that employ our state and local enforcement partners to get criminal, illegal aliens off our streets.
I'm Rich Johnson.
The Trump effect as Canadians vote. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. We begin today's national forecast in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The general area from the eastern half of Virginia through the nation's capital, much of the Delmarva Peninsula, eastern Pennsylvania, and even into the lower Hudson Valley and southern New England will have dry conditions through the daylight hours of today. The combination of low humidity and gusty south and southwesterly winds funneling in warmer air is expected to create another day of high fire risk within this broad zone, especially around areas of dry brush. In fact, these dry conditions are expected to even diminish the coverage of showers and thunderstorms that will be advancing eastward along a cold front through the evening and overnight hours of tonight. To the west and south of there, where there will be more moisture in place, thunderstorms may instead turn severe from northern New York, south and west through southeastern lower Michigan and much of northern Tennessee, with the risk of strong winds, hail, and some tornadoes reaching as far as the southeasternmost corner of New Mexico by today and tonight. As a slow-moving disturbance takes shape that will be the focus for much of the active weather in the east through the start of this weekend, the risk for flooding will once again develop from Oklahoma and northeastern Texas into parts of Arkansas and western Kentucky that have had flooding trouble since earlier this month. There can also be some afternoon thunderstorms in a few spots from eastern Alabama and western Georgia through the Gulf side of the Florida Peninsula. For the west, today's busy weather looks to favor the Pacific Northwest and the interior, where a cold front in the northwest and a separate disturbance over the southwest combine to produce the chance for showers and some thunderstorms, with thunder more likely in the afternoon following some daytime heating. In Minneapolis, clouds give way to sunshine and a cooler day with a high of 60. For Seattle, clouds also break for sun, but there may be a stray shower with a high of 59. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Although his name was not on the ballot, President Trump had a telling effect on the election for a new government in Canada. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has a recap.
In January, Canada had a government in turmoil, with then-Prime Minister Justin Trudeau forced to resign and his Liberal Party staring at a 20-point deficit in the polls, part of which came as President Donald Trump mocked him by calling Trudeau governor and calling Canada America's 51st state. 3 months later, with the political novice Mark Carney now leading his party, Canadians boycotting America and a record 7.3 million people voting early. The votes are still close, but Canada's CBC and other outlets are projecting Prime Minister Carney to prevail and the Liberal Party to remain in power. On the podium, Carney called his party's victory a referendum on his nation standing up to the United States.
We see every day what the politics of slogans and anger and chaos are doing south of the border. They are dividing and they are weakening the Americans. They are not united anymore. United in name only. Canada is not America. Thank God.
It may take a day or two to determine if the Liberals will have a full majority north of the border. For Canada's Conservatives, what was expected to be a landslide victory is now turned into a shocking defeat. I'm Jeff McKay.
Authorities in Florida are investigating the cause of a deadly collision between a boat and a ferry carrying dozens of passengers. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
Within hours of the collision involving the Clearwater Ferry, a mass casualty incident was declared. First responders called to what they knew was a major situation as 911 calls poured in.
Our 911 call takers could hear what they described as horrific screaming in the background.
Clearwater Police Department Chief Eric Gandy.
One person died and 10 others were injured when a recreational boat slammed into the back of the Clearwater Ferry.
6 passengers declared trauma alerts. 2 of the passengers seriously injured and were flown to the hospital by helicopter. The boat hit the ferry just off the Memorial Causeway Bridge around 8:40 Sunday night. It left the scene immediately after the crash, according to the chief.
Taos County Sheriff's deputies located about 3.5 miles south by the Bel Air Causeway. The operator and the passengers were on board that vessel.
Police say the captain of that vessel was cooperative and took a breathalyzer test. No alcohol was detected, and the investigation is ongoing. It's not clear if the case will be investigated as a hit and run. Police now reviewing surveillance footage of the collision. I'm Clayton Neville.
China in the tariff crosshairs when America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Tuesday Business Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed start to the week for stocks. The S&P 500 index, though, is on pace for a losing month of April. Netflix shares hit a record high yesterday.
I think it's going to remain choppy. I think the trade issue is still going to hang over the market. Certainly the issue with regards to China and what that implies about price inflation in the United States.
Yardeni Research's Ed Yardeni on CNBC. President Donald Trump's first 100 days in office are on pace to be the worst for the stock market for the start of any president's 4-year term since Nixon in the 1970s. Between Inauguration Day and yesterday's close, the S&P 500 index was down 8.2%. The 100-day measure will end with the market close today. Investors waiting for some movement on tariffs. The Treasury Secretary told CNBC yesterday the ball's in China's court.
I believe that it's up to China to de-escalate because they sell 5 times more to us than we sell to them. And so these 125, 145% tariffs are unsustainable.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on CNBC. Here's CNBC's Sarah Eisen talking with the former Commerce Undersecretary for International Trade in the Obama White House.
Is it up to China to come to the table?
It can't be. We kind of started this war, and first of all, they really do have an authoritarian regime. President Xi isn't coming up for re-election. Even if this is a way to reshore domestic manufacturing, are we going to have the patience to get there and wait them out? And my fear is, frankly, China is going to be much more patient than we're going to be capable of being when U.S. consumers find the shelves empty and prices going up.
Bridgepark Advisors' Stefan Selleck on CNBC. Agriculture in a trade war tariffs crisis. American farmers say they're being punished by the tariffs, especially as China stops buying pork, hay, straw, and lumber, to name a few things. Chinese e-tailer Temu adding import charges of about 145% after the Trump tariffs. A CNBC analysis found that a summer dress sold on Temu for $18.47 now costs more than $44 after the tariff tax. Angry shoppers are posting on social media.
This here is one of the first examples of a tariff surcharge getting added to a checkout cart. We knew that these tariff costs were not going to get paid by other countries, and they were not going to get paid by the companies. They were going to pass these charges on to us, and sure, there it is.
That's Cheyenne Hunt CA. She's on TikTok. On today's watch list, we get earnings from GM, Pfizer, and Coca-Cola. We'll get the new JOLTS report this morning on job opportunity and labor turnover. We get the latest on home prices and consumer confidence.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Things are looking worse for a suspected purse snatcher when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. One of the men accused of stealing a purse from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, despite being surrounded by Secret Service protection, now faces federal charges. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Mario Bustamante Leyva has been charged in federal court with aggravated identity theft, robbery, and fraud. Investigators say a video captured the man taking Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's purse while she dined at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. on April 20th under the protection of Secret Service agents. He later used Noem's stolen credit cards to buy over $200 in food and alcohol. Noem's purse was recovered from his hotel room. Bustamante Leyva is also suspected of stealing purses from two other people earlier this month. In a prepared statement, Noem referred to Leyva as a career criminal who has been in the country illegally for years. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Authorities have released more information as to the exact cause of death of legendary actor Gene Hackman. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
An autopsy report has confirmed that the main cause of death for actor Gene Hackman was heart disease. The report also notes that he was in advanced stages of Alzheimer's disease and likely hadn't eaten for a long time. It documents the 95-year-old's poor heart health and says he'd experienced heart failure, had an aortic valve replacement, and was given a pacemaker in April 2019. Hackman tested negative for the hantavirus, which is a rare but potentially fatal disease spread by infected rodent droppings. Authorities have said Hackman's wife, Betsy Arakawa, likely died February 11th at the home from hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Her autopsy report hasn't been released yet. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour,
Russia's announced a unilateral 72-hour ceasefire in Ukraine next week. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Urgency is growing to get a budget deal done on Capitol Hill. I'm Clayton Neville.
The trial of 4 former Memphis police officers begins. The Take It Down Act passes the House, and investigations into 2 fatal ramming incidents continue.
The Navy says a fighter jet slipped off the hangar deck of an aircraft carrier. Ed Donahue, Washington.
This year's inductees to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have been announced. I'm Kevin Carr.
Fresh from space, NASA's oldest full-time astronaut marked his 70th birthday by plunging through the atmosphere. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Back after these messages. America in the Morning continues. What's in store weather-wise today? With the national forecast, let's check in with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Tuesday does look to be another active severe weather day after Monday brought several clusters of hail and damaging winds to the center of the nation, even some tornadoes. Some parts of Oklahoma and northern Texas will face similar threats as they did yesterday, thanks to the cold front causing the storms stalling over the region today. The severe risk outside of the southern plains shifts eastward where that cold front can make some progress, meaning that residents from the Texas Panhandle through southern Missouri, the Ohio Valley, and the interior Northeast may want to stay weather aware through tonight, as thunderstorms may produce hail, strong winds, and again some tornadoes. 2 areas may have a somewhat higher coverage of severe weather, from southern and eastern Ohio into central New York, and from the southern part of the Texas Panhandle to around the southwestern suburbs of Oklahoma City. Watch for spotty thunderstorms from the Alabama-Georgia border toward the Gulf Coast of Florida and the southern part of the Florida Peninsula, especially by this afternoon, with morning showers more likely along the Atlantic coast of the peninsula. Other than that, much of the Gulf Coast region, the southeast, and the coastal mid-Atlantic and northeast in general have a warm but dry Tuesday in store under high pressure. However, the combination of gusty winds and low humidity will lead to a heightened fire risk from central Virginia into southern New England today. In the western United States, another cold front diving through the northwest brings spotty showers, with some thunder most likely as well from southeastern Washington through eastern Oregon, as well as near and along the Rockies and around the Four Corners region. Otherwise, expect a nice and dry day today from California into much of Nevada and throughout southern Arizona. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Russia says they'll initiate a 3-day ceasefire for the remembrance of a World War II anniversary next week. But that hasn't stopped the fighting from continuing, and the U.S. appears to be losing patience with both Moscow and Kyiv in ending the now more than 3-year war. Washington correspondent Sagar Magani has an update.
Russia's announced a unilateral 72-hour ceasefire in Ukraine next week.
I want them to stop shooting, sit down and sign a deal. And we have the confines of a deal, I believe. And I want them to sign it and be done with it and just go back to life.
Vladimir Putin says the 3-day pause will mark Victory Day, the anniversary of Russia defeating Nazi Germany. Ukraine's dismissing it as window dressing. President Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday again noted Ukraine's agreed to President Trump's proposed 30-day ceasefire and says Russia's deceiving the U.S. and the world by keeping up its attacks.
He is increasingly frustrated with leaders of both countries. He wants to see a permanent ceasefire. I understand Vladimir Putin this morning offered a temporary ceasefire. The president has made it clear he wants to see a permanent ceasefire.
White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt says the president's increasingly frustrated with both Putin and Zelensky.
He's trying to bring this war to an end, and we've made real progress. But those last couple steps of this journey were always going to be the hardest ones, and it needs to happen soon. We cannot continue, as I said, to dedicate time and resources to this effort if it's not going to come to fruition.
On NBC's Meet the Press, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said this is a critical week.
This week is going to be a really important week in which we have to make a determination about whether this is an endeavor that we want to continue to be involved in, or if it's time to sort of focus on some other issues that are equally, if not more important in some cases. But we want to see it happen. There are reasons to be optimistic, but there are reasons to be realistic, of course, as well.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
The continued effort to pass a budget bill in Congress ramps up. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports that as the House returns to session following a 2-week break and has the framework in place to put a budget together, the question is, will they have enough votes to pass?
After a 2-week recess, lawmakers are back on Capitol Hill and are moving full steam ahead on a sweeping budget bill that addresses immigration, energy, and taxes. Republicans warn of harsh consequences if a deal doesn't get done and 2017 tax cuts expire.
Americans making less than $400,000 a year would see a $2.6 trillion tax hike.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune.
Without congressional action in 2026, tax rates will increase. The child tax credit will be cut in half, and the standard deduction will be nearly halved.
Thune laid out what Republicans are prioritizing.
Republicans are committed to securing our border, unleashing America's abundant energy resources, and ensuring that our military has the resources it needs to deter and defeat any threat.
Congress has a self-imposed Memorial Day deadline, but still work to do as Democrats push back.
The fact that we're still operating on the continuing resolution means that the budget we had for this fiscal year is not in place.
Senator Mark Warner called that
a stupid way to operate.
Medicaid a concern for Democrats. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries thinks Republicans are stepping back from recent promises to protect health care and Social Security.
They want to end Medicaid as we know it. They're going to hurt children, hurt families, hurt seniors, hurt people with disabilities, close hospitals, shut down nursing homes.
This week began with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent at the Capitol. He met with lawmakers about the legislation. I'm Clayton Neville.
Opening arguments underway in a case involving 4 former Memphis, Tennessee police officers accused of fatally beating Tyree Nichols in 2023. Following the court proceedings, correspondent Jennifer King.
Opening arguments kicked off the state trial for 3 former Memphis police officers charged in the 2023 beating death of Tyree Nichols. A jury was brought in from the Chattanooga area because the case became so notorious. Prosecutor Paul Hagerman says Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith were frustrated with Nichols, punishing him for fleeing a traffic stop.
Did they wake up that morning? There will be no proof that they woke up that morning planning on killing somebody. Like I said, not monsters, but men, overcome by anger and frustration and overcome by the moment, who literally beat a man to death and they all had a party.
Defense attorney John Keith Perry, who represents Bean, says Nichols was resisting arrest.
What I don't agree with the fact is that there is a mystery regarding why he was ripped from a car. When he decides to drive 2 miles away from blue lights and sirens, it is high risk. These men are trained to engage in high-risk situations. He's been tased, pepper sprayed, and he's got away from you. It tells you one thing. It's danger.
The 3 men have pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder, aggravated assault, and other charges, but already face the prospect of years behind bars after being convicted of federal charges last year. 2 other officers, Emmett Martin and Desmond Mills Jr., have also been charged, but will not stand trial with their former colleagues. Sentencing for all 5 officers in the federal case is expected after the state trial. I'm Jennifer King.
Murder by car. Update on a suspect's fate when America in the Morning continues after these messages. The House of Representatives passed the Take It Down Act, which aims to protect Americans from deepfake and revenge pornography. By a near-unanimous vote of 409-2, lawmakers passed the bill that was backed by First Lady Melania Trump, which boosts protections for victims of non-consensual sharing of sexual images, including content generated by artificial intelligence, known as deepfake porn. There were some digital rights groups that had warned that the legislation as written could lead to the suppression of lawful speech. The Senate unanimously passed the measure in February, and the bill now heads to President Trump's desk, where he's expected to sign it into law. In Canada, a man alleged to have been behind the wheel, suspected of ramming his car through a crowd at a Filipino street festival in Vancouver, has formally been charged with murder. Correspondent Julie Walker reports that 11 people, ages 5 to 65, were killed, including 3 members of the same family.
30-year-old KG Adam Lowe charged with murder for allegedly driving an SUV through a crowd at a Filipino heritage festival in Vancouver, killing 11 people between the ages of 5 and 65 Saturday night. Police ruling out terrorism, saying Lowe had a history of mental health issues. Meanwhile, hugs and tears at a Sunday vigil for victims. Lou Marquez was there and at the festival.
It's pretty shocking, to be honest, yeah. Especially to this community, in the Filipino community. It's really with a heavy heart.
Investigators searching for a motive, but say the suspect has a significant history of interactions with police and healthcare professionals. I'm Julie Walker.
A similar incident from Illinois. 4 children are dead after a car smashed into a building housing an after-school program. Ben Thomas has that story.
Police say a car crashed into a building during an after-school program in Chatham, Illinois, just outside Springfield.
We can confirm that there are 4 fatalities, 3 that were struck outside of the building before the vehicle entered, and 1 inside.
Chatham Police Department Deputy Chief Scott Tarter in sound from WICS News Channel 20.
The vehicle crashed into the east side of the building, went through the building, and exited out the west side.
Illinois State Police say those killed were between the ages of 4 and 18. Several others were hurt and taken to hospitals. And Tarter says
the driver and sole occupant of the vehicle was uninjured and transported to an area hospital for evaluation.
No word yet on what led up to the crash or whether it may have been intentional. I'm Ben Thomas.
Questions raised as to how a nearly $60 million military attack jet could fall off an aircraft carrier into the Red Sea. Correspondent Ed Donahue brings us details.
The Navy says a fighter jet slipped off the hangar deck of an aircraft carrier. It happened on the USS Harry S. Truman, which is in the Middle East. Sailors were towing an FA-18 fighter jet into place in the hangar bay when it slipped off and landed in the Red Sea. A defense official says the crew members who were in the pilot seat of the Super Hornet and on the small towing tractor both jumped out. The sailor who jumped from the aircraft sustained a minor injury. It is unclear whether there will be an effort to recover the jet, which cost about $60 million. The incident is under investigation. Ed Donahue, Washington.
An unprecedented blackout brought much of Spain and Portugal to a standstill Monday, stranding thousands of train passengers and leaving millions of people without phone and internet coverage and access to cash from ATMs. The outage forced the nations to take electric power from France and Morocco, and both nations could not pinpoint what led to the power loss. The Portuguese National Cybersecurity Center, in a statement, said there was no sign the outage was due to a cyber attack. Spain had recovered more than 92% of its power by 5 a.m. Tuesday, and the Spanish Prime Minister pledged that the entire country of 48 million would have lights back on by the end of today. The Washington Commanders used to play their home games in the nation's capital before moving to a stadium in Landover, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C., but now it appears the NFL team will be heading back to the District of Columbia. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Welcome to D.C. And with that, the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, announced the return of the Commanders football team
back to RFK, where they belong.
Bowser also thanked the team's current owner, Josh Harris.
Thank you for not just buying our team, some would say saving our team, getting the team to the NFC Championship for the first time in 33 years.
The stadium will open in 2030 and cost the Commanders $2.7 billion, with the city investing $1.1 billion for the stadium, housing, green space, and a sportsplex. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
And with more in sports this Tuesday morning, here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
NBA playoffs in the East, the Cavaliers completed their four-game sweep of the Heat, 138-83. They led by as many as 60 points on the night and outscored Miami by 122 points for the series, a new NBA record. Coach Kenny Atkinson.
That first 5 minutes led by our starters. And then, Dan, when our bench comes in, we don't skip a beat, right?
Out west, Jimmy Butler came back from a pelvic injury that kept him out of Game 3 and led the Warriors to a 109-106 win over the Rockets for a 3-1 series edge. Butler had 27 points, including 3 go-ahead free throws with less than a minute to play. Stanley Cup playoffs, the Panthers rallied for 3 late in the third to deflect the Lightning 4-2 and take a 3-1 edge in that Eastern Conference first-round series. Aaron Ekblad and Seth Jones got the tying and go-ahead goals just 11 seconds apart. And out west, Wyatt Johnson scored just 9 seconds into the game. The Stars rocked the Avalanche 6-2 to go up 3-2 in that series. Mike Sullivan is out after 10 years as coach of the Penguins. He won the Stanley Cup in each of his first 2 seasons in Pittsburgh, but missed the playoffs the last 3. Baseball, the Mets manhandled the Nationals 19-5. Brandon Nimmo hit a grand slam and a 3-run shot, tying the franchise record with 9 RBI. Twins tattooed the Guardians 11-1. Edouard Julien led it off with a homer on the first pitch of the game, and Minnesota wound up with 17 hits in all. Reds won their 5th in a row, 3-1 over the Cardinals. Braves doubled up the Rockies 6-3. Colorado has lost 7 straight. The Rocks are 4-24 to start the season. Dodgers got by the Marlins in 10, wins for the Astros, Orioles, and A's. That's Tuesday Sports.
New inductees to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning. 7 new inductees will be entering the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Kevin Carr has details.
The class of 2025 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was announced. First-time nominee Chubby Checker made the twist, or rather the list. Checker's famous cover of The Twist hit the charts all the way back in 1960 and was followed up with Let's Twist Again a year later.
Oh, baby,
Joe Cocker got in with a little help from his friends. Also in the 2025 class will be 80s pop rocker Cyndi Lauper. This girl is having fun as the only solo female inductee this year.
Black hole sun.
Also in the class is grunge legend Soundgarden.
Well, I'll take whatever I want.
70s UK rockers Bad Company also made the cut. Hey yeah, other inductees include innovative hip-hop pioneer Outkast, and indie superstars the White Stripes. Other honors will be given out during the induction ceremony, including 2 musical influencer awards. One will go to Salt and Pepper, the first female rap group to hit gold then platinum. And 70s legend Warren Zevon will posthumously receive the other. The full induction ceremony will air live on Disney Plus on November 8th. I'm Kevin Carr.
Many senior citizens celebrate their birthdays with cake, gifts, and family gatherings, so this is definitely an unusual way to mark your 70th birthday. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on NASA's oldest astronaut who marked his birthday by returning to Earth after spending the past 7 months in space.
Fresh from space, NASA's oldest full-time astronaut, Don Pettit, marked his 70th birthday by plunging through the atmosphere. He did that while in a Russian capsule, wrapping up a 7-month mission at the International Space Station. In his first public remarks since touchdown, Pettit says returning to Earth has always been a significant challenge for his body.
You know, I didn't look too good because I didn't feel too good. I was right in the middle of emptying the contents of my stomach onto the steppes of Kazakhstan.
However, while he felt weightlessness in space, Pettit felt the decades melt away.
You sleep in your bed, you wake up in the morning, and your shoulder, it's like that. This neck is stiffened. And all that kind of stuff heals up because you're sleeping, you're just floating. And your body, all these little aches and pains and everything heal up, and you feel like you're 30 years old again.
The audio is courtesy of NASA.
I call it the explorer's paradox. When you're back in civilization, you want to be out there wherever your wilderness happens to be. I'm ready to go back. Being an explorer of space is what seems to be my lot in life, and I'm ready to do it. And I know John Glenn flew at age 76, something like that, and I'm only 70, so I've got a few more good years left.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
Happy birthday, and welcome back to Earth. Earth, surrounded by many homes and shopping centers. America in the Morning for Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.